Well, that depends. But for me, I can mention Montserrat, Poppins, Railway, or Vertica, and Playfair.
So
I think
which is
that's
your
fine.
favorite?
Depends on the project, actually. But I would prefer Montserrat.
How do you approach brainstorming and generating ideas for a new project?
Okay, well, I try to first understand the brief I'm getting from the client. So I know that with the brief, after understanding it, I have to then try to interpret it visually. Design is something that is visual. We have to try to convert the text to images, but not literally, but kind of. Then after interpreting it, we go on researching. We have various platforms that we use to research. So after researching, then you can now come back to your drawing board where you sketch and start editing, start working.
What are these platforms that you make use of?
I mostly use Pinterest. Pinterest, yeah. Although there are other platforms too, like Dribble, Behance, even Instagram is very, very good. But most of the time, I prefer using Pinterest.
How do you keep up with current design trends and how do you incorporate them into your work?
Current design trends on Instagram, yeah, Instagram, and also on design communities, some WhatsApp group and Telegram groups. At least, yes, you can easily get it from a lot of guys there. So from there we can, once you get an idea and you see that okay, this thing is becoming a trend, so we can just infuse it in one or two of our designs too.
Complementing the fact that you've been doing this for a long time, can you walk us through your portfolio? What is your favorite project or which is your most favorite project and why?
Wow, for that, I think one of my best projects, it is yet to be launched actually. It's for a brand that is into short-led apartments, and I don't want to mention their name because they are yet to launch. But yeah, that's my best because that's my most recent. But if I have to show you my portfolio, then I think I would rather refer to the one on my Instagram page at the moment. That's Grandeur Creative page. So that's for Seacom, for a brand. There's a particular green brand. I think that was one of the most recent brand design projects. And I love it because I had the opportunity to fully express myself. So the client was not someone that was constraining me. So, okay, this is kind of idea. So it gave me the freedom to work and I really love the job.
Which design software are you most comfortable with and how long have you been using them?
That one. I think it depends on the project actually. Sometimes I prefer using Adobe Photoshop. In fact, when it comes to online designs, digital design, I prefer using Photoshop. When it comes to print design, most times I prefer using Corel Draw. Although not all time, but most times. I work as a print designer and also a digital designer, graphic designer. So that's why.
Are you familiar with any design tools or platforms such as Adobe Creative Suite, Sketch, or Figma?
Yeah, sure. And I'm more familiar with Adobe. I've tried Figma, but I think Adobe is my thing.
Can you discuss your experience with typography, color theory, and layout design?
I think every designer have to deal with typography, color. But when it comes to layout design, my experience, it is wonderful, and I love layout design. I really love it so much because I've been doing it since I started learning design. I was about 2015 then. So, and I've worked with some organizations where, I have to work with other designers on the team. And many times I find out that most designers, they try to run away from it. I don't know, but it is something that in fact, I would say it was layout design that I started with when I started design, because then we're always doing it back to back then. Yeah, we're always doing it back to back. Then that was when I was still learning. So, and after I graduated from the place I was learning then. So I still love it and I still take the project. So it's wonderful.
Based on color theory,
What kind of color I love using?
yes, professionally wise, like professional
Okay.
wise.
Actually, as a designer, I don't think I'm permitted to have a particular color because it depends on the brand you are working with. So most of the time I work with corporate brands, and these brands, they have their particular color that they are using. So you don't choose for them. You just have to go with what they have on their brand manual. So that's it.
How do you optimize graphics for different mediums, print versus digital?
Yeah. I think that depends on the job. Although if you are working for a print, if you are designing for a print and you are designing for the social media or for the internet, there are two different color schemes you have to use. So you can use RGB. RGB is the one that is meant for screen designs, and CMYK is the one meant for print designs. So I try to understand the essence of the project. So is it going to be used for print or just for screen? So in a situation whereby we have to use it for both, what I try to do is sometimes I use Adobe because Adobe has a way of converting the color better for you. So, and sometimes if I'm not using Adobe, I just use my Corel Draw. So I can finish designing the job for screen. Then I will duplicate it. So the one I duplicate, I will now change, I'll tweak the color, so that it's going to match well for printing. So that's the only way you get a very good quality.
Right. Describe a time when you received critical feedback from a client. How did you handle it?
Well, we work with so many kinds of clients. So sometimes it's even hard to pick that, okay, this is the most critical one. But I think one that happened quite recently, I can remember, it was a client. Actually, I just met the client, so I was just getting to understand her. And she's this person that will tell you that, oh, this is how I want my job to be. So that particular day, I think she gave me some instructions to follow, like, okay, you have to use this color for the background, you have to use this color for the text. And I just used the colors literally. And after delivering the design, she was like, what? Why can't you add more colors? Why can't you? I was like, hello, ma. You specifically told me to stick to this color. So, and there are sometimes that you have given me instructions and I've used my creative, prowess. And it's like, why don't you just stick to what I asked you to do? So then I was like, I just have to do it that way. She was like, no, 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 you're a creative person. So I think that's one of the most funny and dramatic experience that I have. Yeah.
So how was it at the end? Did she later?
Yeah, immediately she explained what she wanted.
Yeah.
So we just have to just do it for her.
How do you balance client requests with your creative vision in relating to the previous question you just answered?
Yes, I think most of the time, some clients don't even know what they want. So it's my job to try to, inform them and to, try to, I don't want to say teach them, but maybe I can borrow that word. So that you try to teach them that, okay, this is what will work. And trust me, everybody cannot be the same. There are some clients that they don't even want to listen to that. So I just try to understand the project and the purpose. So there are some places where we can try to bend the rules because it's not just about doing what you feel it is creatively right, because these clients are the one paying you. So you just have to find a middle balance. So sometimes we have to, just bend the rules a bit, but well, at least we still need to make sure that the job is professional.
How do you manage multiple projects and deadline simultaneously?
Multiple projects. I think that always happens too. What I do these days, it was before I stress myself. These days I just delegate the task. So except the one I have to do by myself. So sometimes some project might require that I delegate part of the project. Some, it can require me to just delegate everything and focus on other things. Yeah, I can't do everything.
Can you describe a situation where you had to meet a tight deadline? What strategies did you use aside from delegating? Because there are some clients you'll meet that they'll tell you, okay, I want this. Like there are some clients that can even tell you, okay, this work is not your job. You didn't do this because they are used to your own style. So when they see something different or see something coming from you, they'll be able to tell to some extent that you didn't do this job. So how do you manage to balance this?
Actually, that's not difficult. Okay, let's say I have like 5 jobs to do to deliver today. I don't think all the 5 clients will want me to handle their job personally. So it might be one of them. And the beauty of it is that you won't even know that I delegate the job, because when I'm delegating, I'm also putting whoever I'm delegating to, I'm also putting the person through that, okay, these are the kinds of design I've done for this person before. So even though you cannot think like me, at least these are the guidelines. Okay, use this font, use this. So at the end of the day, when the person comes up with their own idea, so when I see in little things that needs to be adjusted to make it look like my work, I was just like, okay, why not change it? So most times it's just delegation.
What methods do you use to present and justify your design choices?
Yeah, sometimes we can present it live. Sometimes it's physically to the client. Sometimes it might be even, you might just send a document, and in the document, for brand identity, sometimes in my document, I have a section for maybe it's a logo design or the logo rationale. So there I explained how I arrived to some of the decisions I made on the design, like the choice of color, the choice of font. So I just have a small section. So, and I always include it in my email that if the client does not understand something there, I need clarity. So I can always reach out.
Can you describe a project where you had to learn a new skill or two? How did you approach that learning process?
Wow. So I think one I can remember well, I think that was when I had to, it was a particular client that I had then. So after doing the brand identity, she really loves it. And so we now have to also move into video editing. And I tried to outsource it. So while trying to outsource it, you know, that was what I was saying, delegation, because I don't want to lay my hands on videos. I've always run from it ever since I've been doing design. But that particular time, I couldn't. So I delegated to one of my guys. So it was supposed to deliver, like, I think within 24 hours. They didn't deliver after 24 hours. By the time he was saying the job, it wasn't up to the expectation. And while trying to, outsource and still look for other means, I got to discover that I even undercharged the project. So I couldn't give it to somebody better. So I just have to find a way to do it better. And I think about 24 hours to deliver the job. I had to go on YouTube, how to use CapCut, how to use it. So I just had to learn that skill that day and delivered it, and the client loved it.
How do you handle creative block and what techniques do you use to overcome it? Yes.
Most times I just eat. We underplay the value of food, actually. Sometimes, I think one of those things that cause creative block is your mood. And sometimes your mood, what we just need to lighten up our mood. For me, sometimes it's just food. It might just be a drink. Sometimes it can just be to take a stroll. Sometimes it might be, the nervousness of, maybe it's a big client. This thing, how can I not mess up? Some things that are not real, some fears. So sometimes I just go out, just go and chill, relax, and just see the project that this is a normal project. I will do it. So, and Yeah, and sometimes too, if that doesn't work, I just go online, start feeding my mind, going on Pinterest and some of those design platforms. Yeah, from there.
How long will it take you to design a typical logo?
A typical logo,
Yeah. Professionally made.
professionally made.
Yeah.
Well, I give my client between 1 to 2 weeks. Yeah, so that I can have time to, to attend to other things and at the same time to research. Because most times the first idea is not usually the best idea. So after designing it, I still want to come back to it the next day and look at it. Does it still make sense? A logo is something that, will be used. We want it to be used for long, a decade, 2 decades, and more. So most times after designing a logo, I prefer to leave it even for after like 3 days after, come back to it again. Is there something that needs to be developed that I'm asking myself? Can this logo pass the test of time? Is it simple enough? Is it creative enough? So that's why sometimes I just give between 1 week to 2 weeks to deliver.
Okay. So let's say describe I know you've described your typical workflow. So let's say you want to design a logo for a brand. Aside from what you mentioned just now, the steps, can you like put it in a tabular form? Like say it out. How you out like your design process to start a logo for 2 weeks. Yes.
Yes. Once I get the client's brief, I send a questionnaire. So through the questionnaire, I get to understand what the client wants, the kind of sorry, the kind of industry they are in, and what kind of logo they will need, because there are different kinds of logos. So after discovering the ones that they need, have known the needs of the client, I then proceed to, making my research, further research, because I don't want to do something that somebody has done before, because that's one of the concerns of a logo. So, and yet I want to be creative. I also want it to meet the client's expectation. So I research more. Then after researching, and I'll start ideating, which sometimes involves sketching. So by the time after the sketching, you can now proceed to the system to design it. And after designing, another thing is presentation. So that's how the process is.
Aside graphic designing,
All right.
what other things do you do?
I run a business, and we're into telecoms, national identity management, printing. Yes, printing is my major after design. I have a printing office too.
Okay. So what will you say to anyone who wants to venture into any of what you have been picking up since the past half a decade as a career?
Can I
Yeah, what
give?
advice can you give?
Okay, I'll just say find what you love and go for it. There will be challenges, there will be reasons to quit. But if you love it enough, you're passionate about it enough, you always find a way. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming to our show today. And now we're done with the talk. We're done with the talking section. Now we'll move to the pick a card game. It is called an honesty game, whereby you get to pick 3 cards. You shuffle, pick 3 cards, and you turn it to me while I ask you the question.
All right, no problem. Thank you.
The first one: what app do you spend the most time on?
Hmm, that should be WhatsApp. I mean, apart from the design apps, it should be WhatsApp.
Okay. So how long do you spend on WhatsApp? DOD.
In a day, depends on how free or busy I am. But sometimes when I check my app usage,
Yeah.
it's like 3 hours. I
Okay.
think maybe maximum of 4. I think so.
Okay. When last did you cry?
Cry.
Yes. Second question.
Jesus. Cry, 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 cry. I can't really remember. But I think last year. It was last year.
So what happened?
Okay, I think I was in a program. I was in a church program.
Okay.
So I think the message just got to a point I was like, God, mercy on me. Yeah.
Okay, the third question. What is one fact about you that most people would never guess?
One fact about me, I'm
Yeah.
a shy person.
That's the end of the honesty game. Thank you for coming. Really appreciate. We hope to call you for a part two if there is need for more of designing.